Welcome to Two Wheeling Classics, and today we have the Kneen family for tonight's episode. How lucky are we? We're going to have some classic stories, absolutely reliving the passion here today. We've got a little live audience with us as well. Welcome, everyone. Being quiet in a minute, but we'll see how long that lasts. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got quite a few here, haven't we, Richard? Thank you for helping us organise this.
Yeah, we're short. My brother Mike.
Yeah.
But we're all thinking of Mike at the minute. So hi Mike. You're with us. And Ryan as well. I think Ryan couldn't make it. Could he, Norman, or something?
He said he's got a party.
He had
go to a party.
He had to go into a
the
party.
The riders have a thing.
So
great. So we've got Norman. We've got Phil. The future generation, Billy, and lovely Kenny. So you've had to bring all this lot together, try and organise. How was that?
Yeah, well, it came together all right. But obviously we didn't know what was going to happen with the racing because it keeps getting put off all because of the weather and this, that, and t'other like. But anyway, it's come together. So we can get on with it.
Share some of your stories.
Yeah, share some stories. And
I mean, how long have we got?
We've got all week.
So I was speaking to Helen Gibson today at the TTRA.
Oh, right, yeah.
And she was saying how it blows her mind how much you guys have been involved in over the years and what you've done and what you've achieved in the family. But she also said at one point, one of the races, all five of you were racing? With five of you used to race at one time?
Yeah, on the airfield in Derby Road. A few times. I do remember one occasion where there was all five of us on the line at Derby Road.
Yeah.
In 82, was it? 81, 82?
That's early, it must be the early 80s, yeah.
And, but you see, Mike won the Manx in 1980. So we couldn't be all in the Manx together, So, he won the junior and was third in the senior. There was four of us in the Manx, all at once.
Mike was a travelling marshal.
And Mike was a travelling marshal.
Yeah,
Mike was a travelling marshal because he'd packed in the racing. He'd had a go at the TT, and then he packed in, which was a shame really because he was a brilliant rider, and I think he could have gone on to being easily in the top 4 or 5 in 350s and stuff like that, in the TT. So, but he decided to pack in, and that was that like sort of thing. So
you never got the rides. You had bikes for.
That's right. Yeah.
They give them rides that you didn't have bikes for, and Teddy Muir, the sponsor, said they're not buying more bikes.
Yeah.
So why they did that, I don't know.
Yeah, I think he got let down by the organisers a bit as well, didn't he? Yeah. They sort of he won the Manx, and I think it was something like he put an entry in for the TT the year later and more or less said, we don't think you're good enough, and he got knocked back by the TT organisation really, and which was a shame really, and he really could have gone on to do really, really well. He was quick, he was a neat rider.
He did get a ride though.
He did get a ride, but it was only
Caffrey.
John Caffrey's Honda, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the Formula
2
race, and he finished 9th in that, and the bike went on to 3 cylinders, I think. But he got a 9th, and it was more or less after that he finished really, didn't he? He packed it.
Yeah, that was
he did. His last thing was out with us on a Derby day the next year.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Derby practice day.
So from what would it be? It would be from. I mean, I did the Manx first time in '82, newcomers. Norman started in. What year did you start in?
78.
Norman started in 78. That was the first ever newcomers race.
Yeah.
Same as me.
Phil started in
82.
He was 82 as well. Memory's going a bit.
Same Norman. Same year as Norman I was.
78. Kenny was in the 78 newcomers as
I was
well.
in the 350. Norman was in the 500.
And it was really bad weather for that.
Wasn't
it? Was, Rob Brew won the race. Manxman it was horrendous conditions, wasn't it? It was
trying to start off with. They delayed the race quite a few times, and then they set us off by Juba Bridge. It just poured down, and then it was cloud down from the gooseneck right over to Kate's Cottage every lap.
Wow.
in the rain.
In the rain.
I actually had to push my bike up from the waterworks to the gooseneck because it went onto one cylinder on one lap, and then it started again on the second lap. But I didn't have to push it on the second lap. I still finished though. Still finished the race, but it was pretty
Incredible.
pretty rough.
But I remember being at the bottom of Bray Hill. I walked down and I thought, well, I think what age was I then? 18 or something like that, whatever. And walked down Bray Hill, and right towards the end of the race, it was probably about 5 or 6 o'clock at night, was it, something like that?
Yeah,
Was it late on, wasn't it?
They set it off.
And the street lights were on. It was virtually dark. It was going, and it was, like you say, Norman, the mist was right down at Ramsey Hairpin and right towards Signpost
It was
Corner.
pouring rain. The whole race.
And in fact, the first year I did the newcomers morning practice, it was pouring rain, mist on the mountain, same thing again, from literally hairpin to Signpost Corner, thick mist. And I thought, oh, bother us, we'd be all right. You just ride the conditions, and you basically go up the white line in the middle of the road, and on the mountains, there's nothing else you can do. But I started off and I headed down Bray Hill, and I just went, God, this looks a bit different compared to riding on the road. I thought I was quick on the road, but it all changes. Like when you get on that TT course, everything changes. Like for your first time, you've got the whole width of the road and the whole dimension thing changes, And I got down to just coming into Quarterbridge, and it was on full throttle, the bike. The throttle had jammed wide open. And so I pulled the clutch in, and I managed to coast to a halt, and went back round to the pits. And there was a guy there who was helping, Peter Atchison.
Oh, actually.
Peter Atchie was there, and he says, and he took the slides out of the carburettor, and because the carbs were wide open at the back, so it was bringing in the water. And Peter says, put a bit of salvo on the slides, and he polished the slides up, and the carb bodies, put them back in, and off it went, and it was perfect.
Stop the
Worked
water,
perfect,
getting in and jamming the throttle.
But I think we only did one lap. I did one lap, and it was horrendous conditions, but I thought, oh, that's brilliant, this. Just to be out there on the TT course, it didn't matter what it was, the conditions, you had to use your loaf, obviously they wouldn't do it now, the times are different now. But that was my first lap into it, so,
Wow.
But that's the way it was.
And it always blows my mind how you used to start and you go out for practice, because it used to be not even light. And you guys would be there
First thing
because
in
it
the
was so
morning,
early that you could
4:45 in the
start.
morning.
Yeah, early morning practices.
4:45.
Well, you'd be up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You'd be
Yeah.
getting up, then you go over, put your leathers on, get the bike fired up, and we used to ride. Well, I used to ride from the grandstand, me TZ, over to along the prom, or whatever, over to the grandstand, through Scrutineering, wait for the practice to start. And you'd hear the birds chirping, and then
Early morning chorus.
there would be 110 TZ 350s, because they were all TZs back then, maybe a few RG 500s. And then the whole chorus would start up, and the noise was and the smoke. You can imagine it, 100 odd TZs waiting on the line to go, it's, you're half choked before you got going, but I mean, they were great days, but it's all different now, but,
no tyre warmers.
No tyre
No,
warmers.
none.
No wet tyres, no
Yeah.
slicks.
no,
just one
one
tyre.
tyre, that was it. Black and round.
Talk with them. Talk with them.
I remember one morning I set out, and it was that raining that hard. I put an oversuit on, and my gloves were dry, and I like dry gloves, so I ended up putting a pair of marigolds.
Oh, yeah.
So I had a pair of yellow marigolds. Supposed to look right sight on the start line, going out with these things on, but my hands were dry anyway.
You ready to do the dishes when you return?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
He did
Give
while
it
he was
some
going
more.
around, he was going that slow.
So over the years and who you raced against, I'd love to
Yeah.
hear about. You'll have loads of stories, juicy stories about each other, but also about the people that you raced against. You know, you must have some incredible memories of the people that you were
Oh,
lucky enough to
yeah.
race up against. And
Well, there's some famous people came. Well, what was it, 82? I remember being up at the weigh-in for the newcomers, and I was talking to this lad, and it turned out it was Gary Hislop, who was Steve Hislop's brother, and his bike. In them days, you rode from Millcreasts, and then up to the grandstand, the parade thing, the wrong way up Bray Hill. And anyway, his bike had, I think it had broke a stud or something like that. They used to sometimes it'd snap a stud, TZs. And his bike went up in the van. I says, you'll be all right, you'll get going, I mean, I was just chatting to him, and I didn't know him from Adam, and he would have gone on, I'd say, to, unfortunately, he'll lost him at, what's it now? That's
Silith.
Silith race course.
Yeah, but he would have gone on to be a brilliant rider, a TT winner.
As good
and
as
that, I
Steve
think.
is like that.
Yeah, because I remember him when we started the race. I think the 500 started first, so we were away first, and I was number 12, and I think the 350s were behind us, and then the 250s.
Yeah.
It was a run like that
500,
because it
350.
must have been because the first lap he passed me. He was on a TZ. I was only on an LC 350, which was a lot slower, like. But he came past me at the corner just before Ballacrane.
Cronkbrack, is it?
Oh, what's his
Lisa's.
name?
Oh, you're thinking of
Lisa's.
Can't think of the name.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Ghostly.
Ghostly,
Yeah.
and he came past me, lovely and safe and
Yeah,
everything like.
yeah,
But
Harold Lees.
I thought, that boy he was just neat as a pin, and I just thought, he's going to go on and do really well. And unfortunately, I lost him, and then a few years later, Steve comes on, and his style was exactly the same as Gary's, and that always sort of stuck in my mind, really, sort of thing like. But I think Gary would have gone on to do amazing things. He was good, good rider, like, yeah.
wow. There's just obviously Grand Prix going on at the minute. They've got Steve Hislop's winning 1992 bike up there. They call it the Charger. It's called the White Charger, isn't it?
Paul
Yeah.
Cassidy's got it, I think.
Is it Paul
I'd
Cassidy?
love to have a ride on that.
They're not.
No, it's
No.
400.
It's 400.
Well, watch that race at just before Windy Corner, and Dan and Ryan were just kids then,
Yeah.
and we were sat on the bank for that
How old
race.
were they then?
Probably about 6 and 8,
Okay.
something like that. But it was a lovely day because it had been put off from the day before, hadn't it? Bad weather. But yeah, it was some race, that was cracking race.
Yeah,
Big
if you
Fogarty
haven't
and
caught
that.
that yet, where have you been? But you must tune into that and watch that race back because it's
Yeah,
a
Yeah.
slice of history, isn't it?
yeah.
So Billy, so to your next generation, we're going to share some more, relive our passion. Let's just touch on Billy's keeping very quiet there.
Taking it all in.
Yeah, he is. I bet you, this is just a common theme for you, isn't it? Sitting and hearing the stories.
Yeah.
You can't get enough of it, I bet.
No, I know pretty much everything about it.
I don't know why he does like it.
So what made you want to, can you remember the time when you thought, right, that's the route
Yeah,
I'm going
actually,
down?
I did trials from when I was 3, and then when I was 7, we were, because there was this field Bimmy's field we would go to, and there used to be trials there. We used to go there and practice as well, and I never used to do anything. I used to just fly up and down the field and just try and get my knee down in the grass.
That's what Ryan used to do.
Yeah. And my granddad was like, you should be racing. And I was like, no, I like just flying up and down the field. And then it was when I was 7, I fell off it. I tried to do a wheelie, and my boot got stuck in the bar, and they thought I broke my leg. And then we were sat in the hospital, and they were like, I was like, I'd like to try racing. And then we're looking at bikes, and we want to do like mini bikes, like pit bikes. And then I got Dan's old pit bike, started pit bikes, and then that's it.
Yeah, Leanne gave Billy Dan's old bike.
Ah.
and that was his first track bike.
Yeah.
And then we went to first place was the parade ground in Derby.
Yeah.
And I was just practicing there, and I used to just fly around there. And then I was on my birthday, because the first meeting was on my birthday when I was 10, and that was when I raced. My first day was a race, and that's what it all started.
That was up at Derby.
I think it started before that. I remember him with spanners messing with the bikes up at the Derby day.
Oh yeah, it was like, I remember.
You're only about 1 or 2 then.
Yeah, that was.
Spanners on the nuts, messing around with the bikes.
So you get involved in that way as well, and you want to get involved in the mechanical side of it too. So do you get hands on in that way?
Oh yeah, he works on the bikes.
You do?
Yeah,
Still
that's-
makes them.
Yeah.
Changes the wheels.
And it's
Kids.
good. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because
Excellent.
you've
Well,
got
he needs to, because
Yeah.
there'll be times when some of us won't be there,
Yeah.
and he's going to need something to do it. And he started with the pit bikes,
and
changing the wheels on the
I
pit
can
bikes,
do everything on the pit bikes now. Just got the new bikes now, and I just need to learn.
change the oil, all stuff like that.
But another thing it gives you is when you actually get to high level racing, you feel something's wrong with the bike, you know you can cope with it and get it round to the
you
finish.
can
Yeah.
feel it. You
You're
can
working
actually
on
feel
the
it. It's like you get to know your bike.
in
can't
tune with it. on a
Yeah, you get
different level.
mechanical empathy or mechanical.
I did it with
sympathy.
Dan and Ryan. You know, I say, right, if you want to ride them bikes in a trial next week, because we did trials for 8 or 9 years, about 8 years, something like that. And that was the best thing I ever did with them, really. You know, taught them a lot of bike control and stuff like that. And I'd have them taking the wheels off, carb, you know, just do everything, you know, and
Yeah.
get the bikes ready, clean them, everything ready for the next week. You know, because I said, if you ever do go on to racing, you get the feel of your bike, you know things, you hear things, you know, you just know, you know, it's like a sixth sense. You know, some people have everything done for them, they never touch the bikes, but I think it's a good thing to learn and to have that as that bit of a sixth sense, like, because you know if there is a problem, you can deal with it, you know, or maybe think, I'm going to pull this over, it ain't right, you know, whereas maybe you could crack on and it could be a big problem, like, you know, or something like that, you know. But
Great. Next generation.
yeah.
Now, what about, do you look at any of the classic bikes, Billy, and what classic bikes would you look at and admire and think that you would like to?
2 strokes. TV.
Yes.
He loves them.
You can't, yeah.
Oh well,
Mega.
with my
I sat on
one.
my TZ once, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Great.
With the when I first got the Aprilia, I was in love with the 2 strokes, and I was just so happy with it. And then as soon as you start really getting into it, you know how much problems can happen with them. That's why we got the Yamaha, because they're so reliable compared to the 2 strokes.
And that will give him the laps, he can do
Yeah, because
consistent
I'm
laps
just
rather than
starting
being
on the
let
big
down.
bikes, and
Yeah.
I don't want to keep having problems, and just want to go out.
He needs track time.
Yeah.
I gave
not
them the
fixing
Aprilia.
them.
Yeah.
I gave them the Aprilia, but I didn't realise it needed so much doing to it. But Phil's spent a lot of money on it and everything. I just said, you know, but it's going quite well now.
Yeah,
But,
we got a new race ignition on it and stuff. So
but he's gonna I said, just put the money into the other one. Try and sell it and then put the money into the other one.
It wasn't so much the money; it was the time we put into it.
Time's a lot of
Time
money
was
as well.
it was colossal,
Like-
the amount of time we put into it.
Yeah.
Because he's been, for his age, he's been extremely lucky with sponsorship. I think he's got more than I ever got when I was racing.
He's had more bikes than I've had in my life.
It's a talent, you see, Billy.
Yeah.
Hey?
I remember once this fella said, he said, I'll give you some money for, and I said, all right, yeah. And I thought I was going to get 200 quid or something like that. I went down, he gave me 15 quid. And the stickers were going to cost 7. And I handed it back to him and says, you need it more than me, mate. Keep it.
It was a nice thing, that sort of thing happening around at that time.
Yeah.
When the average sort of person that you work with, like Phil Quayle, he helped me out one year. And I was in my garage one day and I was messing about with something, doing some work. And he turned up, and I didn't really expect the guy to be really into it, you know. And he ended up wiring my bike up, you know, all the nuts and bolts and things. And he did a beautiful job on it, right? And he was a painter and decorator by trade. Wasn't any mechanic.
Don't trust them.
Anyway, he'd done such a good job on it, and he really did. He helped me all the way through that newcomers that year, and it was one of the things with Phil was he was a very funny bloke. You know what I mean? Should have been a comedian really, but he came up to me in the garage and he said they are, he says, and he gave me this little brown envelope like you used to get your wages in, you know, but it was just an ordinary brown envelope. He said they are, he says, I'll be a pint for you later, you know, after you finish the race, like, yeah. Anyway, I didn't think too much about it really. I thought, well, it'll be a couple of quid in it, you know. And whenever I opened it up, there was £42 in it.
Which is a lot of money, though.
It was a lot of money.
Then,
you know, because
probably a few hundred quid in there.
£42. I thought, well, why 42? He said, well, that's all I had. You know, and he gave me all he had, you know. That was brilliant. That.
Well, that happened a lot, didn't it?
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
John Farragher
Used to have
giving me
bottles and stuff.
money for a new chain.
Yeah.
And Rupert Crowe gave me money for stuff as well once.
Yeah.
I've got a really quite a funny story actually about 1980. I think it was 83. I was running this TZ, and a mate of mine who I used to drink with, Steve Kelly.
Keller.
Looked a bit like Freddie Mercury. But anyway, no.
He does actually.
I was up the grandstand and somebody interviewed me. I can't remember who it was now, but and it came over the radio. It said, and at this time there was a Steve Kelly, who was a brilliant runner for the Isle of Man. Steve Kelly, and one of the commentators says, "Oh, he said it's great to see all the sportsmen helping each other out in the thing." Well, the other Steve Kelly who bought me the tyre, just drank like a fish. The Steve, he's a great lad, we used to have some good crack together, And it says, came over, they must have gone around the corner and said, "Oh, look at that, there's somebody sponsoring Richard Kneen now with a..." And I put on at Steve Kelly's back tyre on the back seat. And, this commentator, "Well, it's great to see this local athlete, helping out, buying a tyre for Richard Kneen." He had no idea, obviously, it was Steve Kelly from the Liverpool Arms. But that's really, back then there was very little money. You couldn't go to a bank. You can go to a bank now and get thousands of pounds, can't you? You know what I mean? You can borrow money easily, but back then you couldn't, and you were on the breadline trying to run.
You saved up what you had, didn't you? Made the most.
You had nothing really. Trying to keep a TZ going.
Yeah.
They were so unreliable, sort of thing. You had to run them really. You used to have to. You could never run them at full.
More of a budget type, wasn't it?
So if you had loads of budget and stuff like that, and you had plenty of money, you could run them at 13,000 revs. But we used to run them about 10.5. Just to save them, to make sure you got maybe if you could get your 6 laps, because there was 6 lap races, and it'd be. One year was 110 in it, wasn't it?
120. I went up with Keith Trupshaw one year, and I was 120. Yeah,
something like that.
120.
Anyway.
Yeah, there'd be 110 because you only had 110 pits.
Yeah,
but the numbers went
down.
But
they had non-starters as well, so it did. Come
but the reliability rate, the end of the race, there'd be 60 left and 40 at the side of the road.
Because the high attrition rate with 2 strokes.
Big high attrition rate, But
if you never had the money to put the best stuff in them.
Spurs people made a killing.
Yes.
And in them days as well, you'd pit lane. You actually came into pit lane flat out.
Yeah.
Full tilt.
No,
and if you were down the bottom pit, then you were still honking on through there, and how there was never any more big accidents there, because
first race meeting
probably coming in at 100 miles an hour
on the outside wall.
Yeah, that's right.
You changed it the next year, so you came down
on
the inside.
Right.
Yeah.
There was one year I was actually in the pits for Norman, and it's the old fillers and what have you and. What was that? What was that? 6 gallon going in?
6 gallon. Yeah.
6 gallon.
Yeah, 6 gallon tank.
You had a 3 lap tank, 6 gallon. Going in.
Weight that.
Anyway, he comes in. Norman comes in. I'm there on the fuel like that. Puts the fuel filler into the tank, pulls the trigger, and it snapped off in my hand. The the bloody thing snapped off in my hand, and I went, oh shit. And you've got seconds to react. So I got some rag and I wrapped it around my finger and I pushed it up, and this pin was really hard. Imagine it's got a lever on it, it's got the lever to push it in.
Brass pin, isn't it?
And it was, anyway, I'm pushing it, and I'm going that, Norm's there, keep it bloody going, I'm going like that, I'm going, and it was, I could feel this pin coming through the cloth, like, and and it had actually punched a hole through my skin into the, and it was, wasn't good.
Full of petrol.
Got the petrol, and anyway, got him going, and away he went. And,
With your finger.
But yeah, so
These are things that happen.
and when I looked at it, where it was on the lever, where it was pivoted, somebody had arrowdited it on.
Not welded it.
Not told
Or
anyone.
put a new one on.
But my finger hurt for about a week afterwards.
Yeah, some of them fillers weren't that great, they've been left for such a long time.
Yeah.
These fillers were from the 1950s, basically. In fact, before
Before
that.
that,
Well, before that.
30s, I think.
Probably 30s maybe. But
Yeah.
they used to use sort of like, oh, that'll do, and you'd find that some of them that wouldn't even work, would they?
No.
They
Some were
wouldn't come
even
out.
slower or faster. So if you timed your fuel in properly on that pump, you'd be all right. If you hadn't, the pump's slower or
Some were
faster,
slower than some were faster.
So it was
Mm.
really good to
Juice.
make sure you had a good one,
So did you all pit for each other? Did you all support each
Yeah.
other? You weren't
Yeah,
racing
yeah.
against
I
each
did a
other?
lot
Well, Norman did.
I did a lot for him. but when
Norman
he
did the
won,
pits
like,
for me and the newcomers,
Okay,
and
great.
Tony Conway.
Tony, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
funny.
we all helped each other out somewhere along the line,
Yeah.
I did
We
a lot
all
for
helped each
Norman,
other
like,
out, like,
But yeah.
Did you all encourage each other? Did you all wind each other up? What did it?
Not
What, was
really,
it
no.
supportive?
Yeah,
Or
we
was
never
there,
wound
like-
each other up, really.
Yeah,
no,
okay,
no,
okay.
no.
You never,
Oh
like-
yes, I mean
Yeah.
Norman lent me a bike one year. I'd entered
So-
the TT and I got a ride let down, and I think
ZX6.
ZX6, and we got the bike on the Wednesday. We only had a couple of practice sessions to qualify, didn't we? And went out on it, and it was all over the place, wasn't it? Remember the handling? We had to come in and change the suspension every time.
What was wrong with it then? Oh,
Well,
because
it was-
it's never been raced on the road.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So eventually got it going, and set up for the race. Started off in the race, and my footrest fell off. My foot fell off the footrest going down Bray Hill on the first lap. Never give it a thought. Just thought I'd put my foot on the footrest. It gets down to Quarterbridge, did it again. I'm thinking, what the hell? I'm thinking oil.
That's what
So
we
I'm going
thought.
around. Gets round to Union Mills, and I made an effort to keep my foot on the footrest all the way around. And going through Glenvine, the temperature gauge had gone up, and it went up quite high. It went up, I think it should have been run about 70, and it had gone up to about 85. Oh, Christ. So it went on again a bit further, got through to through Crosby, down through the Highlander, and it was like really high up near the red then. And as I was coming into Ballacrane, the gauge just went completely off the clock, and I pulled in, and the marshal turned around and says, "I look like a steam train coming in," and one of the pipes had jumped off the
Top
the
of
water
Bray Hill
cooler.
that started, because we watched it happen. That pipe come off the back of the barrel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I
Just
didn't,
a
I
big
didn't
cloud
know
of
that.
smoke behind them.
So it must have looked like a steam
Just
train.
over here for Ballacrane.
Thought you were
Just
at the parade,
steam
like.
and heat.
Yeah,
Kept it
I didn't know.
Had his old mist.
At first I thought it was oil, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
But one of the funniest ones I had was had a 250 Rotax early morning practice, and I gets round to Glen Helen, and the gauge again had gone off the scale. So I thought I'll pull in, get some water, and get round and finish the lap. Nobody had any water, and the way it was come out was a
Some
teapot.
wine.
Gives it a-
So I filled it up with tea and finished my lap.
What type of tea was it?
There's no sugar in it.
Yorkshire tea.
2T.
So
Yorkshire tea would be fine.
these things only happen on the TT course.
Yeah.
Daft things like that.
That bike Dickie Watson made up for me, the second T20 Suzuki. Barry Wood always rode the other one, and the boys says, "Oh, we can make another one up for you." Says, "I go on, I'll ride that." And I got out on it, and I was going around to Hanley's Bends, coming in there like that. Next thing, the bars are coming back on the tank like that. So I thought, pushed them back out. And I had to keep doing it every sort of few miles. And what had happened, they put these forks together, and on the top cap that's screwed on, they didn't realise the O-ring wasn't stopping the oil coming out, so the oil was coming down the forks through the clamps.
Ooh.
And I still got round, but I knew what was happening, so I just kept pushing the bars out. There's only
You got finished.
so many
didn't you?
things
Yeah.
that happen on a bike, and you explain that to people. You go, "You what?"
Yeah, there's,
Not
there's
believing
things
it.
that happen that would not
The
normally
TT
happen in
course.
short circuits.
Yeah.
TT
yeah.
course, you know, it throws so many things up, like, you know, it'll hammer the hell out of the bikes, like, you know, sort of thing. They're put together a lot better now. In them days, the things are a bit different.
Yeah,
like
that's
a bit
just
more.
like a little oversight you thought wouldn't happen, but it did.
The TZs used to crack all the time. The frames, every time you went out,
Tape called.
you'd have the
PPF
bike in the
tape
garage
called.
checking for cracks everywhere. The standard TZ frame was absolute rubbish.
Yeah, Mike had a few, didn't he? When
Yeah.
he had a
First
few.
time out on that F, it broke at Derby Road.
Yeah, they were pretty. You
But
had to
Bally's
check
bike
them all the
was
time. You know,
machine, like, yeah.
sometimes it might just look like a crack in the paint, but you scrape the paint back and there'd be a crack in the thing, and you'd have to get it welded and brazed, you know, and gusseted, strengthened, and whatever you like.
Got Rob North frames like that now. It's got more tracks in it. Dinghy's loading up.
Yeah.
Gala.
Makes you wonder what some riders were riding sometimes.
Yeah, yeah,
You
absolutely.
know what I mean? Was it, you know, you'd be thinking, well, what if mine's like that, what are the rest of them are like? Like, you know, the thing is, was
Stick
doing
of
your
cocaine,
homework
huh?
the night before and making sure that you had it to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
Because
You know,
there were 6 lap races, you see.
yeah, a long
Not
way
4
around.
laps now, like, or 6.
You were tired after, like.
You know, and you was, you know, no earplugs, nothing like that. You know, screaming straight through pipes and screaming in your ears, but
Yeah.
it was brilliant.
No body and also no body protection. Absolutely
Yeah.
hardly anything. You
Your
know.
gloves were like golf gloves
It's a
now.
thin
Yeah,
sponge
just
in
like
there.
golf gloves, like pig skin, you know, real thin pig skin,
Wow.
stuff like that.
I
No
remember
back
one-
protectors,
No back
nothing.
protectors, yeah.
Nothing.
Sorry. I remember one practice, no, it was a race actually. I was in the pits for Ralph Sutcliffe. He was a Manchester Grand Prix winner in '86. And he came in on the 4th lap, I think, and his footrest had fell off. And the scrutineers wouldn't let him out again. So we had a foot pump there. So we stripped the foot pump down, the little bits of metal that go across the foot
Yeah.
pump, screwed that into the footrest, and built it all out with duct tape. And we said to the scrutineer, "What about that then?" He says, "Oh, go on then." So we got out and finished the
Duct
race.
tape would last very long.
Great.
Yeah.
You just had to do what you had to do to get finished. That was the main goal of any race that you went, was just to finish. Anything after that was a bonus.
Yeah.
Remember the little what do you call them? Little bathing bag with all women would put their
Oh, yeah.
lipstick and stuff
Pencil
in.
bag.
A little thingy bag.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
Your
Inside the
toolkit.
fairing,
Yeah, the
lumps of
little
wire, spare spark plugs,
lock wire, was it?
lock wire, and,
Lock wire.
and
Yeah.
pliers,
You-
Pair of snips.
pair of plugs, and a split link in case the split link went
Yeah.
on the
And a
tree.
couple,
the
and a couple
usual.
of quid in case you stopped at a pub.
Oh yeah,
A
that
few
was
quid for a pint.
the most
you know.
important. And a packet of fags if you smoke. Yeah,
And that was in a little pencil case on the side of the fairing, inside the fairing.
Yeah. Wow.
That was
Like,
on TZs, they were so fickle, you see. So.
You might oil a plug, you know, and it could get you going again. It could get you a race finish, you know. If you didn't have that, it was, or wire something on, because the expansion pipes would crack for fun as well, wouldn't they? And drop down and all sorts.
That
You know.
happened, that happened to me on the second Manx Grand Prix. The junior. And the pipes came off on the 4th lap. So I
Yeah.
had another 2 laps to do with the pipes screaming all the way around.
But they weren't connected.
I was deaf.
Eh?
Come off the barrels.
So you have all achieved so much together as individuals. I'd love to know from each one of you what you see as your proudest moment in the paddock or around the paddock, really. Let's start with you, Richard.
What are you talking about? Maybe. Well.
So whether it be a win or
Oh.
riding a certain bike, or it might have even been something that Dan
Yeah.
or Ryan did. It might be a personal thing to you.
Well, my own one, I mean, 82, newcomers, I was on an LC 350, a bog standard road bike that I put together myself. I actually I actually based it on Charlie Williams' Formula 2 bike from the TT, which was nothing like that. But I mean, we didn't have the money or nothing like that. It was standard. It was just a standard bike with an alley tank, a race seat, and a fairing. And I made it look like a race bike, but it wasn't a race bike. And I finished second on it in the newcomers that year. I thought, if I get 5th or 6th with my lap times, I thought that'll do us, because it was slow compared to a lot of the bike, most of the bikes out there that we were up against. So to come in second on that, some of the boys fell off and blah blah blah. I ended up there. So, but that was to me, that was like winning, because that was just my bike I was using for work and stuff like that, and so I was, as far as, and then I didn't really do much after that, because I had a really bad accident on a push bike in the February of '83 and hit a car head on in Onken Village. Got smashed up quite bad. Carried on with the racing, but I was never the same, really. I didn't want to land on all the stuff that had smashed up, from that accident. Anyway, but then from then on, obviously the other proudest moment was when Dan and Ryan did the newcomers in 2008, and they both won that same day. Different races, but within the same race, Don't ever think I've ever been so nervous in all my life, because when they started off, it started to rain, and I was sat on, looking down the ground, I was up on the start line, and I just looked down and went, oh shit, I just thought, my God, good luck, boys, you know what I mean? And people were when the race was going on, there was loads of people coming up to me, hey Richard, and I don't even remember them speaking to me, because I was just so, you're just in the moment. You living the race with them, sort of thing. And then they both won, and it was just an amazing week, sort of thing. And then obviously Dan went on to win another 2 races that week, won 3 in a week. That was outstanding, really. That was the most outstanding moment. And Ryan had won on the bike. Me and Ryan had put the bike together ourselves. So yeah, that was good. That was good. You couldn't really beat that, sort of thing, So yeah.
Wonderful. And Kenny?
Well, so many different things that happened all the time, really. I think it's like for Dan and Ryan, but when Mike first won, that was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then when Norman won, I did his pit for him that day, and that was even better for me, because I was a bit more involved in the whole thing, whereas before I was just doing a little bit here and a little bit there. And
chief mechanic then,
because Phil was in the pits, and Ian Murphy, rest his soul, poor lad, he passed away last year. And yeah, because when Phil said
pit stop gained me 10 seconds in the race.
You see, because Murphy said we'll time the fuel in. Well, was it Phil? I'm not too sure. I think it was either Murphy or you said, well, we'll time the fuel in just to see what happens.
I told you to do that, didn't I? I said, make sure you time that in.
We timed it all in, and we did that, and it ended up giving Norman nearly 13 seconds.
10 it was, didn't it?
So 10 in the pits, and by the time he'd finished his second lap, he was already up the front from 7th. Was it on the first?
Well, I got a board up at the gooseneck saying I was 5th. I was
5th, sorry.
Actually 7th.
Yeah, it was 5th. And he'd gone from 5th to 1st within a blink of an eye.
A couple of laps it was.
And
I wasn't
when he came in, I thought he
at
said he was going to get off. And he wasn't. He said, no, the leaders had already come off at where was
Steve Coombe.
Steve Coombe.
Was he leading us?
I thought
it was Steve Smith.
Anyway,
Smith.
he
Steve
came off
Coombe.
with the Craig, and he's going off.
He overdid it on the brakes. I watched that happen.
Anyway, I thought he was going to get off the bike.
I'd caught them all up on the second lap.
But anyway,
all the ones that passed me.
Managed to get the fuel, because I was putting the fuel in, and I was sort of on edge, make sure that thing was tanked up to the top. Anyway, off he went, and it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
But it was 25 years, wasn't it, since Mike had won it?
23.
23.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Norman, they were twins, you see, Mike and Norman.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was, nearly quarter of a century after Norman wins it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Kept trying, never gave up, sort of thing.
And then
That's why I never moved on to the TT straight away. I knew I could probably win a Manx.
Yeah.
And then in
So,
the Holden
kept that
area,
up.
he's standing there a little bit bemused with himself, like, phew, on the Manx Grand Prix, like, you know.
Norman
He said, what are you
Wisdom
going to
was
do now?
there.
So I've got to go to the TT now, you know.
Norman-
He'd already done the TT in the production classes, like. But
Norman Wisdom was there, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's guessed about
I
it.
Norman, yeah.
And the two Normans were there together. Like, you know, it's great that he was there right at that same time. Like, because Norman loved Norman Wisdom. He had bikes himself. Like, he loved the bikes. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet there was some celebrations that went on as well.
Oh, the celebrations is what I really used to like, because I used to like looking forward to going to the night do's, you know.
The villa.
Yeah.
Summerland.
A lot of
Lido.
girls around, you know,
Lido.
so it was
Yeah,
good,
the
like, you
Lido.
know.
The Lido it was.
The Lido, well, we had the Lido, we had Summerland,
Yeah.
there was numerous venues. The Villa Marina was probably one of the best ones, I think, because you used to have all the guys who used to run this meeting, right, and all the ladies that used to do all the office work, they used to come really well dressed up in tuxedos, right, and they'd be all sitting up the back, like, you know, it's like a bit like a sort of
Academy
royalty
Awards.
type thing, you know what I mean? But then we used to have people at presentations, like Princess Michael of Kent,
Yeah.
presented me with,
Yeah,
with stuff. I think you got something from someone, and you
I
got
did
something
have
from
got
someone.
a
And then
show.
there was all sorts of different things like that were happening. There's just so much going on.
So
Yeah, it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
yeah, they came over. For, I think it was the 83, 84 Manx. Was it something like that, or 85, something 86, something like that?
Because at that time, there was a lot of there was this other
Princess
family, it was
Michael
called the
Kent.
Jackson family, and they're 5 brothers, and they all won, all of them, and that I used to really look up to them guys, because they had a lot more better setup than we'd ever have, because they came from a different background, because we didn't come back from a background of racing, but I think they did, and I think that's where they have that little extra boost to go off on to do short circuits. I only ever did one short circuit on the mainland, and that was at Snetterton, and it was with the Andrews Racing Club, and I had a lot of the guys that were even doing TT and stuff, like Kenny Harrison, the Mad Yank, we used to call him, Kevin Wilson, Chris Gross, who's now Billy's got one of his bikes. There was loads
So
of
many.
Alan Phillips. There was loads of guys that you always looked up to. You know what I mean? And I think that's basically, for me, really, that was it. What it was really all about. All them people that you knew. You know, you always used to get a good feedback from them and
Think-
stuff. The
'cause-
banter, you know.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
lived in Onken, you'd go as kids. You'd go up. You'd make a little thing up, like you go up and sit on the hedge at Signpost Corner, and you'd be watching Agostini go around and all this, and all the bikes going through, and you'd be brushing your toes, like, and all that. And then one day you're riding on the TT course, and you reflect back to that, and you just think that would never ever have been possible.
Yeah.
But then one day you're actually riding on it, and to tell you honest truth, like, that's all I ever wanted to do was ride on the TT course. I wasn't bothered about anything else. I just wanted to ride there, you know.
I don't think there was any one time that when we were coming out of our coming into our teens. I mean, I was messing around with motorcycles with Eric Hargreaves, who used to be down in what was called the Little Mill Nurseries, and we used to have cars and bikes and stuff, and we used to get all sorts of stuff that my mum would have probably said, well, you shouldn't be doing that, like, you know. But yeah, it was a lot of stuff going on
Your poor mum.
prior to the Manx. I mean,
And I used to knock around Buddy Eardsley. Went to school with Buddy, like, and then Buddy went on to win the Manx, and then I started racing, and now Joe. Joe's coming through now, his
Yeah.
son, and doing really well,
Yeah,
like, you know.
tremendous.
yeah, he's
You know,
really
he reminds me of Dan, really, because of his keenness.
Yeah.
He wants to do really well, and he's 110% visioned. You know, you can tell
You can see it and feel it in him,
Yeah.
can't you, when you're around
yeah,
him? It's-
you know, he just, but and he'll do well. He's going to go on and do great things, like, you know.
And Phil? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I
We'll come back to you,
started
buddy.
in 1982 through to 89. Missed out 86 because I was racing across doing the Metzler production bike series because I couldn't do the Manx that year. I think my most memorable one was '85, I had a GPZ 900 Kawasaki, which I'd actually bought for the production TT, and I'd finished 12th in qualifying, and we got to the race, and it blew a head gasket in the race, and it come into Ramsey, and I'll never forget it, because as I come into Ramsey, it started the hailstone.
It did. I was in that race, yeah. It did. It was
Coming into
hailstorm.
Ramsey.
TT.
And the temperature gauge
Hailstorm.
the temperature gauge went off the scale,
Yeah.
and I didn't talk to anyone for the rest of the day after that.
Didn't you finish that
I'd
race?
saved up all winter. No, I didn't. I just did one lap.
Oh, right.
But
But I remember that coming in, and all of a sudden the ground was like kind of white a little bit, and I just went, "What the hell's that?" You
only
know,
in Ramsey.
I've seen it on
Right
the
through
veranda
Ramsey.
one more.
it was just a spook.
Yeah.
Heavy shade.
Hails shower just
So-
came out of nowhere. Like, you know, next lap we came round, it's perfectly dry. There's nothing.
Yeah, so we sorted the bike out. Steve Moynihan, an engineer from down south, who's been a godsend to everybody
Yeah.
on the island. You must have heard of him.
Yeah.
Steve
Steve Moynihan
brilliant.
kept.
He's got people out of the mire so many times.
I'd say Steve Moynihan kept all the Manx lads racing through the 80s and a good bit of the 90s as well, and a bit of the 70s, you know, maybe late 70s, a lot of the 80s. Only for him, he probably wouldn't have been able to afford to buy all the new bits, because Steve would make the cranks up out of other bits, you know, like new bearings and stuff like that, and press the cranks. Nobody else was doing it. Steve kept so many riders going. It was
Steve repaired the head for us, skimmed the head.
Do everything.
Went to the Manx on it, got 7th in the senior on it, and then after the race, I took it home, changed the oil on it, put a set of pannies on it, and I went down to Paul Rickard on a camping holiday. I did a 3,000-mile tour of Europe on it afterwards.
So it's a 24-hour endurance race.
Oh, did
I
you?
wasn't in that. No, I went there to watch that.
That's when you're
Yeah. So it done the Manx,
Endurance getting
changed
there.
the oil, and I did 3,000-mile tour of Europe on it straight after.
Steve's even helped
Fantastic.
me with my bike
Has he?
bits as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
Steve's helped us a lot with the
Yeah, he's
Aprilia.
still there hammering stuff out. Yeah, he's a good lad.
Honestly,
Right,
Yeah, anything you just go to him.
he doesn't get enough recognition, that fella.
No.
It's a bit like Slick, you know, Slick Bass, the amount of the stuff he's done for riders over the years.
I
He
know,
did
he's
so much for
brilliant.
Dan.
He's unsung heroes.
You know,
Yeah.
God knows the millions of hours he's put in helping boys out.
He was a massive help to Dan as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Sponsored
yeah,
Dan, didn't he? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Dan lived there.
I always, yeah, I remember this. When I first got a bike for,
He did, didn't he?
Yeah.
I bought a bike off Alan Lund for Dan, because Dan said he wanted to go racing. So I bought this little 400 Kawasaki, which hadn't been going for about 5 or 6 years. It was lying up the back of this shed in Timmel Street. So I bought that, and then we got it going. Dan did a couple of meetings on it, and then I took it up to. I'd heard about Slick. I didn't know him from Alan. I heard he was, you know, famous tuner and all that. And because all our stuff was it was all 2-stroke stuff, you see. So I takes this bike up to Slick, like, and I said to him, I says, you know, we met him and whatever you like, and I says, what do you think you could do with that? And Slick said, well, there's a skip over there, you could try that. So when he said, listen, I said, we've got nothing, the young fellas wanted to start racing. Anyway, blah, 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 I took the engine out of it, and Slick did a little tune on it, a little bit of gas flow, and I did what, £1,200, and I paid Slick off over the winter because I didn't have the money, and he let me pay him off, and I paid him off. And then Dan rode, that was Dan's first race bike, sort of thing. But then Dan got pally with Slick and that, and Dan was always up there then, learning how to work on bikes better and stuff like that, and they became great friends, you know, sort of thing. And then, they did great things from then on. And that bike that I've got now, the one that's up Victory Cafe, that's the bike. Slick blueprinted all that engine and everything, did all the work on it, and Dan won the Ulster Grand Prix on it back in 2014, and beat Dean Harrison by 1,000th of a second.
Is that the one that he got on the last corner?
Yeah,
Start
yeah.
finish line.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those, you know, and
We were watching that race.
but it was, it was, and the owner of the bike, Dave Evans. Dave was a massive supporter of Dan, and Phil was on the line with us. Me, Dave, and Phil were on the line, and we were right on the line. and it was just, it looked like it was a hair's breadth in it.
Oh,
There was
wow.
nothing in
Anyway,
it.
Dan
He won
snuck it. He won it. That was it. They give him the win, and that was it. Like, so, but that was a brilliant day to see Dave, who had put so much money into Dan and helped him so much,
Time
and Slick as well,
skills.
doing the engine. It was just a combination of, it was just a great event in the end, like, sort of thing. Like.
Yeah, it was a great meeting.
Wonderful. Norman?
Memories.
Obviously, getting my first podium was a big one in the mounts. Lloyd's TSBs 125s, and then once I got on it, I never got off it, which was a bit weird. But got that second behind Dan Lindsay on that bike, and then the next year I rode at Bagassi's 250. Was it the next year?
You rode the 125 a few times, didn't you? For Alan Kelly. Man and
Sorry, yeah,
Collections.
that's right. Yeah,
Man
I
and
got
Collections.
second with that bike, and then Eric Bagazzi got us a bike, 250, and we got third
The
on that.
RS.
Yeah, and then the next year we won it, and then the next year it was on the little Suzuki that I was talking about before, but the one Barry rode, because Barry hurt himself in the TT,
Yeah.
so I managed to get 6 podiums then, and 2 wins. So
The old, waited 23 years and then they all came at
yeah,
once.
yeah,
then.
on the podiums in one go.
Amazing.
You got a TT,
But it shows you never give up.
Third, didn't you?
Never
In
give
your
up.
Split class.
That was a race within the junior race in 04. They let, it was the very last run of 250s then, and there's only about 7 bikes in it. But you're up against big 600s, so I think Palmer won it. Paul Owen was second, and I managed third. And I got 700 quid prize money. It's the most money that I've ever had. Plus you got good start money as well, so
Yeah.
that was a very good TT for me.
Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
We could do, I think we need to do part 2, part 3, I think. We got to come back to Billy though, and then we're going to finish off on the charity with Billy. Oh, we're excited to see some of the stuff that you've been doing on the bikes that you've been racing, and lots of people have got their eye on you.
Yeah.
What are your hopes then? What's the dream?
I'm not sure. I wanna do the max, but
Yeah.
and so I don't even know if it will be happening when I'm older.
Go.
How old are you now?
13.
13.
13, I thought you were 15.
No,
Yeah.
It'll be going.
Yeah.
but yeah, I would like to do that.
You want to do the Max Roads?
Yeah, but
I think there might be an uproar if they try and get rid of the mates.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing, isn't it, about like when we were growing up, we used to see the Hondas and the Yamahas with Phil Reed and all them, and now Billy's seeing our generation, like me, Norman, Mike, Phil, that side of it going, it's a different thing in a way, but it's got that same sort of feeling to it. Do you know what I mean? It's an odd thing to sort of explain it really, because it's
Well,
one of those.
he's grown up with us, where we grew up with all the work songs of the
You see, we grew up with all the big stuff, and then we struggled to go through it in a certain way, but in a sort of like, how do you put it?
Monetary.
Yeah, in the sort of getting the funds to do it. Yeah, and now it's completely changed round. Whereas like Billy's in a little bit more of a comfortable surrounding. Do you know what I mean? He's got a lot of people around him to get him where he needs to be. Whereas we have to do it all basically individually, all on our own.
shoestring.
Yeah,
Nothing.
Basically.
Zero.
Yeah.
I think it's easier for kids to get sponsorship because it does attract a bit of attention
when you're younger.
when it's younger, and people want to help, which is great. We've had some great sponsorship from people, haven't we? And the
Superb.
list is just endless, really. The amount of people that have helped us, and it's been brilliant.
Yes, it was
But it's the
crazy.
same with the likes of all the rides. The Manx rides coming through, Marcus and Marcus Simpson, Joey Airdsley, I mean, you know, the amount of people that are helping them, and you know, is phenomenal, really, which is great, you know, sort of thing. But you know, but I think money seems to be easier to get now. But there was literally you had nothing really.
I
back
think actually
then,
there's more
you know.
riders too.
You really
There was less
scratching, like,
sponsors
you know,
going
just,
around to get money off.
Yeah.
So there's only as
And people,
handful
it's
get it.
great that people are doing that, you know. And if I had a few spare bob as well, I'd probably be putting a few quid in myself. But
There's more exposure now, isn't there? There's
More
more
exposure.
advertising opportunity,
Via the
marketing
internet,
opportunity,
yeah.
etc. And
yeah,
the skills that you've obviously got that you've been showing, and then the background that you come from, it's
but it's people
That's
think.
my skill.
Mm-hmm.
That having everyone.
I mean, it took.
oh, that's nice, isn't it? Eh? Very good.
Yeah, I mean, it took Dan 10, 11 years to get where he got, you know, and through, you know, and a lot of hard work as well, like, you know. But, you know, he did BSB, and, you know, he did the road racing as well. He rode in Ireland,
Macau.
Grand Prix, you know. He rode in Finland too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
won that one.
He won
Yeah,
that,
he won there, didn't he? But, you know, yeah, it's good that, you know, there's more help for the young ones, like, but they need it because they're so expensive to run now, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of money it costs, like, you know. So it's good, like.
Yeah, I
you know.
think in terms of looking back then when we were doing it and what it cost to race, if you had a ratio, I think it'd probably be 3-1 now against what
Yeah.
it was then, or 4-1, depending on how good you are, because everything's just got so much more expensive. I mean, a set of tyres for a bike now, you're looking 450 quid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like when we were racing,
The set of tyres would last us a season nearly.
yeah, I know. Then it was a lot
Sets of tyres.
cheaper, but what they were paying,
You didn't have the
and
brake
what they're
horse
getting
to go
now,
through them, like.
what they're paying now for it, I think everything is more expensive than what it was then. If you had the money, like, you know, from when it was then, everyone's on cheap wages, we're on better wages now. The ratio is still more for racing now is far more expensive.
Yeah.
And it was cash all the way. Well,
Yeah.
no cards. Yeah, I think he's going to do all right though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
We all
I
got
know.
our eye on you. And talking about supporting
Yeah.
riders, you got to touch on the charity now. So someone in Billy's position could benefit from the charity, couldn't they? From the
Well,
donor?
yeah, well, yeah, you know, I mean, the money that's got, I think the whole charity, I think it's something like it's raised about 65,000 or something like that, and half of that's gone out to different things, like, you know,
It's
the
not
Joy
so
Dun-
much to riders, it's more to organisations
Yeah.
Yeah.
that run
That
events.
Yeah, like-
can
Yeah.
filter
The
through to the
Rob,
riders.
the Rob
Yeah.
Vine Fund that had 10,000, I think, for new stretchers and medical cases and stuff like that. And there's Dan Kneen badges on them and stuff like that, you know, because Dan had help, you know, when he first came through from the Mike Hailwood Centre. So there's money, we've given money to that. And Joey Dunlop House, we've bought some outside furniture there for that. And the ACU Benevolent Fund has had money as well for injured riders. And sporting bursaries for different sporting people, not necessarily motorcycling. There's been runners, swimmers, world enduro riders, mountain bike. I think we're doing a mountain bike.
Is that Zurich?
Hmm?
Zurich.
No, oh yeah, we help. Oh yeah, there's the
The trials
Tour-
as well.
the trials. We
From
help out
Tour
the
de-
trials.
Tour
Yeah,
de Dan, isn't it?
yeah,
Tour de
we
Dan.
we sponsored the
Dans.
The Dans,
Le
yeah.
Dans.
yeah, we sponsor the trials.
You actually made a series out of it. It's like the
Oh,
Danny.
what was it? Can't remember what it was now. Anyway, lots of things. So there's lots of good things coming out of the charity, and I think a lot of that really, because we got, you know, and it's only due to people putting money in and buying the items that we sell, the T-shirts and badges and all the other bits and
The
bobs.
great bobble hats.
It's only because of the general public buying all that it is the way it is. But I think the reason that is because Dan was such a great sportsman, and he was always such a cheery lad, and got on with everybody, like, you know, and he was a real, you know, he was a real go up and getter. You know, he was driven, sort of thing. And so I think through being the person he was, people give well to the charity, you know, sort of thing, like, so, and good's coming out of it, out of a very bad situation, but so, you know, it's nice to see that.
Long
you
may
know.
that continue.
Yeah.
So if anybody wanted to find donate, or where can they find details to donate?
It's danneen.com.
Kneen.com.
danneen.com. You can buy stuff on there or donate to it. And also we've got Leanne and
Dan's partner.
yeah, you know, she's done so much. I mean, she's just like she's just unbelievable girl, Leanne, like,
Superwoman.
and you know, the work that's involved with it, setting up that charity and all that. When we first lost Dan, some of his friends said, come to me about a week or two later and said, we'd like to set up a charity in Dan's name. And I just said, yeah, crack on, you know, it's not a problem, like, you know. But it's a big thing to set up a charity, and I wouldn't have had a clue how to do it, you know. So there's been so many people involved with it. I don't really know a lot of their names, actually, but there's the ones that have put that work in, and Leanne as well, was phenomenal, like, you know, to get it up and run. It's a real difficult thing to do, you know. So, you know, we can only thank them for what they've done to set that charity up as well. You know, I actually had nothing to do with it. I wouldn't have had a clue. But, you know, we support it in every way I can.
Yeah.
But that was out of my league, you know, sort of thing.
Yeah, they've had a lot of help. They've had a lot of help from everybody, haven't they?
Oh,
Setting that up.
yeah.
I think
Lads
when
setting up the
brilliant.
websites and stuff like
When
that.
it first happened, I did a charity thing where I was like cycling to Peel and back,
Fantastic.
and I was like $3,000.
Wow,
Yeah.
look at you.
I don't
Amazing.
know how that happened.
And the Ledans event, that
Yeah.
is obviously, that's
In the
grown by
summer,
the
isn't
year.
it?
That's a cycling event. Dan liked to cycle because he kept fit for his road racing, doing that. We've just had that on. We've just had a record entry for that. 195 people.
Wow.
195 people.
So you can
in
actually
that.
come over to the island and enter into that as
You
well.
can,
it's a
yeah.
great cycling event.
Well, we're talking
so-
about there might be something getting done with the Manx government or something, possibly to try and encourage more of it. So that event's just growing all the time, and that was on a week or two ago, and I think we raised getting on for £7,000 for that, which some will be going to the charity, and then I think the other, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it might be going to the children's centre.
Oh, great.
You know, so or something like that. Be a good cause anyway,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So that's getting bigger every year, and it's a great event. You know, it's I think you know, the crazy some of them, like, you know, they're going around doing it on their own for 24 hours solid cycling. You know, I don't know how they do it, like, but the machines really. But it's a great event, and everybody has a bit of fun. We've got music on all through the night. Justin from ELS.
Yeah.
He's amazing, like, you know, he supplies everything for nothing, and, you know, he's up there all bleary-eyed at 6 o'clock in the morning, still pumping music out, and it's just a brilliant event, you know. And so thanks to everybody that helps out with all that event as well, you know, because without all the help, it wouldn't be able to run,
Yeah.
you know.
So danneen.com if you want to donate or get involved in any way, or
Yeah.
come over for the Ledans, which will be next
Yeah.
year, won't it? But you can, beautiful island, you can ride
Yeah.
on the roads that Mark Cavendish and Pete Kenyock have ridden and raced on, and
Yeah.
come and support an amazing charity, and come and enjoy this beautiful island, and potentially bump into one of these legends. So listen, gents, thank you so
Yeah.
much for chatting to us and sharing your stories.
Thanks for having
We've
us.
certainly been
Yeah, thanks for
reliving the
inviting us.
passion with you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much.
It's getting warm in here now, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of hot air being talked.
Time for a pint.
It is. Billy, good luck with everything. We are cheering you on, and all the best, and enjoy it.
Thanks.
Yeah? So, that was Two Wheeling Classic Show with